Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good everything. My name is Jason Weiss. I am the host of the Ask Jason Weiss show. Although I am an attorney and I can give legal advice, nothing today is legal advice. This is purely educational. This is purely informational, and we hope that you listen and you enjoy. Today we are going to have with us any minute now. It looks like we had a small technical issue and he dropped, but we're going to have someone returning to the show, Chef MichaelBJacobs. And we're going to talk about there's something legal in the kitchen. So once Michael joins us, which he is right there, and now he is joining us, South Florida is basically known for many things: sunshine, sand, bikinis, and all that good stuff. But one of the things that we're really known for these days is real estate and the culinary industry. And what we do is today we have, like I said, returning to the show, Chef MichaelBJacobs, who actually is more of a full service. He's not just going to go ahead and be your chef in the kitchen and make sure that everything runs smooth and, you know, making sure that the cuts and everything look right. What he's also doing now is helping design the kitchens, helping for efficiency, helping for cost savings, because everything has gone up tremendously in price. And what he's also doing is helping people that are getting out of the industry or getting back into the industry, finding the right things, the right equipment, the right land, the right lease. So these are all the things that we are going to be talking about today. And so without any further ado, we have Michael, and make sure to turn your microphone on because you were in mute to avoid the background noise of the kitchen that you love.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me, Jason. I appreciate it.
And one of the things is, look, we got you in the middle of service, but thankfully your kitchen is running smoothly and you don't have to worry about that. And, you know, basically what I want to talk about is, you know, people don't think about it, right? Open up a restaurant, get in there. I know how to cook. I know how to bake. I know how to do this stuff. I'm going to be successful. Go ahead. Trample on the dreams of all those young kids.
I think, you know, it's really interesting. First of all, again, thank you for having me. I think something that's interesting that a lot of people understand that in today's world that the industry has changed a lot. And I think everybody will agree. A lot of industries have changed over the last 5-6 years. And with that said, I would have to say buying into a restaurant or buying a second generation restaurant, going into it has changed from specifically in South Florida, but even all over the country. The investments have changed. Key money has changed. The concept of what you're buying is not the same as it used to be. You know, a lot of the time, you know, second generation or even building a restaurant from scratch, you know, the costs have gone up exponentially. And I think a lot of people in today's world didn't really envision it, and then they didn't cushion it for, you know, the overages, the 10-15% that we used to add in.
Now, Michael, you two things. Number one is, you know, look, we know you're in the kitchen, you do your thing, you know, and all of that, but you also have a unique perspective on this because you're also outside and you are a licensed realtor, and you can go ahead and also help find the space. And one of the terms that you just dropped that not everybody who's listening might know, you just talked about key money. Let's put aside the kitchen portion for a second and let's go into the commercial space. What's key money?
So I'm going to answer that in a long-winded way. But for many years, when I started my company with consulting, you know, we were leaving money on the table because we're not realtors, you know, and it wasn't until I realized that I could be a real estate agent. I don't have to be a broker. I can just be an associate. But depending on where I hang my license, that I can help assist restaurateurs, entrepreneurs, venture capital people that want to put money into facilities and spaces to find the space to put the money into. And what we were doing was we were leaving, you know, the 3% on the table, which, you know, I don't need to tell you, this day and age, you know, every penny counts. And there's a lot of money that we left on the table in the beginning years. So now with the real estate license, I'm able to really get a hold of the MLS, get in there, and Jordan Karp, who I'm hanging my license with, does a lot of residential, but he does a really niche of commercial real estate as well. He did the SLS in downtown Miami off the market purchase, which was a lot of business. So getting back to it, what to answer your question is that commercial property is an interesting market because a lot of the restaurants, specifically in South Florida, have changed hands once or twice. I know guys, landlords, and realtors that have sold and rented the same space 3, 4, 5 times in the last 10, 15 years because it happens. And what happens is real estate owners, the landlords got smarter and said years ago, instead of losing money on a concept that's not able to pay the rent, they said, okay, you're going to build it out and I'll give you an X amount for that. But once, if you close or don't pay me or whatever, I'm keeping everything that's inside. And the legalities with that, I'm sure you're familiar with because their lease agreements are based on these type of deals. So if I don't pay you rent, you foreclose on my property, meaning my kitchen, my walk-ins, my coolers, my equipment, everything that I have. So with that said, if I just put $500,000 into a kitchen and a restaurant, that's all yours now. So what happened? The landlord says, I don't need this stuff, but I'm going to rent this facility with that included. And now, in order to make up his money that he lost by the previous tenant, I'm going to sell you that equipment, which is now called key money.
And one of the other things is that, also sometimes the landlords get the benefit of that because they don't even sell you the equipment. They just build it into your lease, right? If you go get a fully furnished apartment, right? Let's just say it's $2,000 a month, but if you got it vacant, it's $1,400 a month. So that's where the landlord is making money. What the landlord also gets as a benefit is that you're maintaining it, you're using it, you could replace it, you're responsible for it, and it makes it more attractive. And then on the end, again, you could always resell that stuff, right? There's a secondary market for used mixers and ovens and stoves and you name it. There's a market for it everywhere. So these landlords, because of a lot of these, not fly by night, that's not the right word, but newer restaurant owners, right? If they fail in the first 2 years and the landlords are kind of like, I don't want to spend all this money and time. I don't start making my profits, my real money, till years 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Correct. So yeah, go ahead.
With build outs and expenses and all of that kind of stuff. So one of the things that I think you hit the market on when you first started doing this was the fact that you were finding restaurants that were already suited, or they will build to suit or make the change. So you don't have to go through change of use and zoning and ordinances and grease traps and all of this. You already had it. So it was basically like you could go and you could say, look, what do you want to do? You want to do a steakhouse? Great. There's 3 of them. Let me show you all 3.
Correct. So it's, as much as I always wanted to be a one-stop shop for hospitality, advisory, coaching, as they call it today. I mean, there's, consultant's a dirty word today. You have to be an advisor or a coach, so whatever you want to go with. But my point of it is that I wanted to be a one-stop shop. I wanted to be able to find the property, find the equipment, find the facility that best suits that person's concept, deliver it to them, and then work on the project as well. So I think we had a mass closing this past summer in South Florida. We lost about 25 or 50 restaurants between West Palm Beach and South Florida, Broward and Miami-Dade. And that's a lot. That's a lot of companies, a lot of independents, not a ton of chains. And there's a lot of guys out there that'll tell you, this is the reason or that's the reason and so forth. But realistically, the markets are changing. So I think, with the QSRs, the quick service restaurants, the kiosks, the ghost kitchens, and, between the Ubers and the DoorDashes and all the delivery guys, There's a lot of different markets that people are looking into, and it depends. I just came from a meeting that I think a lot of people one of the things we spoke about was your demographics. Who are your demographics? Did you do your homework, and did you get the analytics of who you're going to market to? It doesn't matter if you make the best meatloaf or steak or whatever. If you open up in a vegetarian neighborhood, you're not going to do any business. Right. So with that said, you really want to have a variety of demographics coming in, and you want to do your numbers. So what's great is with technology today, we have the ability to peruse analytics to suggest, especially with AI and everything else today, what if I opened up a coffee shop here? What if I opened up a deli here? What if I did this? And you can get all that information, and then you go and look for the facility. And having done that, now, you have a price per foot. What are you going to pay? How much do you need? How much can you spend? And then you work it from there. I have a table. I have X amount of tables and seats. But specifically, who am I going after, and are they willing to pay it? Those are the questions that a lot of people don't ask. And they just say, I just happen to get this great deal on this space. It doesn't mean anything unless you can make it profitable.
So I remember way back when a chef who will remain nameless, but if we could just call him Chef Bam, you'll exactly know who I'm talking about, had a restaurant in, I want to say, like Vegas and New Orleans, and decided to open up one in Miami. And you and I had the discussion way back when that the name, the draw, the reputation, the fact that he was on a TV show, that was all great things for him, right? It brought it. But I remember the one thing that you told me, and I'll be curious if you remember it. You told me that the restaurant would not do well in Miami for one specific reason. Do you remember what that reason was?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but
it
go
had
ahead
to
and
do with
remind
the
me.
palate.
Yes.
Because everybody in New Orleans and Vegas, they went for the bam, the spice, the heat of the food. And you said that they would have to make considerable changes to the menu in South Florida because although clientele and geographic flavor, like certain thing, they're not hot. And that's
that's a very good point, and I did forget about that, but now that you reminded me, something I would say is what I think, and that restaurant did pretty good. I think they lasted 5 or 6 years, but what's interesting, their executive chef at the time, who you and I both know and is still a good dear friend of mine, Chef Tom Azar, excellent chef, was able to have latitude with the creations of his specials, which allowed to answer that question of how do I keep the clientele of the hotel, which was also another thing we had to take into consideration. It was in a Miami Beach Lowe's hotel, which was, okay, great, because now any tourist that has been to New Orleans or Vegas had the opportunity to try that cuisine. But then if you were basing, say, 30% of your business on locals to come in and not the 70% transient because of the hotel, you still wanted to keep that core. So who are they? And that's where I think they were smart enough as restaurateurs, as businessmen, to know that we have specials. We have the ability to put certain things on the menu that will give us latitude to appeal to that 30% demographic. Tom used to do a tuna lettuce wrap with ponzu. I mean, I could eat like 50 of them. I mean, they were amazing, right? And it had the little crunchy, wonton sheets in there and everything. And it was on butter lettuce. And I mean, I can tell you the dish like it was yesterday. I ate it, and I remember the pungent flavor, sweet, sour, salty. I mean, I could eat them all the time. But that was something that wasn't on a Emerald's menu, but it was on a Tom Azar menu, which allowed him, again, the latitude that he needed to put that dish there to keep the guests coming back.
So and I don't want to talk politics. We will not talk politics, but
please don't.
With the current tariffs and everything being more expensive and all of this, obviously, look, the restaurants need to go ahead. Look, you're paying more for turkey and bread, right? And you own a sub shop. Obviously, you can't still have a $5.99 sub because your turkey cost tripled, your bread cost doubled. Now your $5.99 sub is $7.99, $9.99, $18.99, whatever it is. Have you noticed in the restaurant industry? I've noticed two things, and here's my observation. Not only have the prices gone up, which I get, but now the serving size has also gone down. And that's my biggest complaint, right? I understand you're getting turkey, it's much more expensive. You're getting bread, it's much more expensive. You have to pass that on to me. I get it, 100%. But now you're also, instead of giving me, and you're just calling it a half a sub, your half a sub that used to be 8 inches is now only 6 inches, and you're hitting me up. Any clue as to, why restaurants are hitting you twice as opposed to just passing it on once?
I think the most simplest answer would be is they have to figure creative ways of charging and being able to accomplish the exorbitant prices and scaling back on size and portion. It's funny. If you go to a coffee shop, and let's just say generically, if you go to a coffee shop, if you measure their plastic containers, their small, medium, and larges, and you measure, I saw it recently, the amount of product they put into a small, medium, large, and put the ice, and you know where I'm going with this. It's all the same amount. It's all the same amount. It's just ice, right?
My dad used to go in to the movies and ask for a soda, no ice.
Right.
Because he wanted the full amount. Plus, it was too cold for his teeth. But he wanted the full amount. And then when he found out it was free refills, he still said, I want one soda, normal Coke, no ice. So he wasn't trying to beat the system. But yeah, I mean, that's it.
My father used to do the same thing, but he would say, I'd like a cup of ice on the side.
He would. Exactly. Yeah, my dad would.
I get it.
But do you also feel that the quality of the product has also gone down, meaning the quality of the turkey decreased, and that's making my turkey sandwich not as delicious?
So I think you're looking at a wide variety of answers to that. And what I'd have to tell you is the production and the labor pool and the ability to manufacture has changed. And again, not talking politics, but let's just talk about the labor pool alone. It's all different than it used to be, and it's changing consistently every day now. And with that said, you're paying more for every single thing that's coming in, and every single thing item that is being utilized right now from our own country is also being upcharged because of all of that. Now, what's interesting is that let's take the beef market right now. There's normally a trend during the fall that the numbers skew down a little bit on beef prices, and then they go back up. And what we've seen is that the beef prices have actually relatively skyrocketed throughout the year, and they haven't come down, and they're not going down anytime soon, which is really scary. And if you're a public, residential person, and you shop at even say some of the wholesale stores, you can see the difference as well as a Sam's or a Costco or whatever. You can't find any meat portion for less than $13.99 a pound. Now, that's a retail price. I don't even want to get into the wholesale, but that's retail, right? You can't get wholesale pricing less than $10 right now. And it's really crazy because, again, I came from a meeting that, I could tell you prices 30 years ago. Okay, fine, Michael, you're getting old. 20 years ago. And even 5 years ago, the prices were still different than they are. But cattle's being farmed differently. You also have to take into account the variety of vegans, vegetarians, health concern, public, the ecosystem, and I could go on and on and on.
recalls, contamination, E. coli. I mean, every day you wake up on your phone and you're getting some pop-up from some news network, local news, national news. This has been recalled. A car thing, a food thing, a this, a that. As we get more sophisticated and we test more, we're going to find more problems and things that we would normally just say, you know what? Now it needs to be recalled. It needs to be fixed. You need a refund. Get rid of the attorneys that are all suing in class action type things. All of that kind of stuff. And that's where law comes into the kitchen. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna allow Michael to take a quick drink of his coffee. We're gonna go for a quick 20-second commercial break to thank our sponsor, and then we'll be back for another 20 minutes, and we'll keep on rolling. So take it away. Good. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jason Weiss. I am the host of the Ask Jason Weiss show. Today we have with us Chef MichaelBJacobs. We're talking about law in the kitchen. And before we go any further, although I am an attorney, a coach, a consultant, and all that good stuff, nothing I'm saying here today is legal advice. Strictly educational and informational. You have not hired me. I am not your attorney. There is no privilege that extends here. We have Michael, who broke away from food service today. Actually, he's doing some consulting work and he's on the road, but he was kind enough to go ahead and show up here. And he loves what he does. He's happy, and at this point in time, we're just trying to figure out what's going on with the culinary industry, that it's changing. So I guess look. When we all got hit with COVID in 2019 and 2020, the entire food industry, that's all we heard about. Everybody was getting laid off, and waiters and waitresses and servers and all of these things. And companies like Uber and DoorDash and all of those, they started picking up. They were in existence pre-COVID. I know for a fact they weren't, but it wasn't to the scale. And a huge misconception of the consumer is, well, I'm still ordering the food. The restaurant should be doing well. Everything is great. Now, I have attorney-client privilege information on that I cannot share. I've done the agreements. I know what they are. Michael is not under that same type of agreement, and he can tell from the industry what it is. So let's not pick on any of the food delivery services, and let's just call it, we'll just call it, food delivery service. We'll do it at that. We know it's one of those and all of those. So I order my sandwich, I order my steak, I order my whatever, and they deliver it to my door, and it's $70, and the restaurant should be fine because they just got $70. No. Okay. Why is that?
So let's look at it this way. There's all that surcharge. There's charges within there. The items are also priced differently as well on the menu that's on your phone when you're ordering from any of those food delivery services. So if I go into the restaurant, it's $12. When I look at it on the delivery service, it's now $13.50.
Okay, now let's stop there, right?
Sure.
That is not the restaurant, or that's not really the restaurant's thing, right? Because it's not like, okay, you go in there. So if you go in and you buy the sandwich for $12 in the restaurant, but if you go ahead and you're getting the surcharge of $13.50, okay, I guess food delivery service just made $1.50 profit. And the restaurant is still getting its same $12.
Not really, because there's a percentage that's taken out of that as well from the FDS, food delivery service, that they're getting because they advertised you. They get the marketing and the frequency. Remember, you're paying for that advertisement on your phone, the restaurant, the concept. So whatever the delivery product is, you're paying to be advertised and shown. That costs money. Not just the person that's delivering it to you. That's media. It's everything that's on the back side of all that, all the analytics, all the demographics, all the ways, Google information, and all that stuff. Plus the fact that the FDS is providing that platform for you. What do you mean, a platform? Well, do you do any advertisement? No, I don't. But then how are you doing business? Need I say more?
Correct. So, and they use the algorithms, and they said, oh, you ordered a pizza last time. We recommend, why don't you try these pizzas instead?
Correct. And it's not that they're giving any of that information to the restaurant. They're keeping it. Correct. So I can't even market my own business separately because I don't have those analytics.
And you're not getting the data. And, look, how it was done way back when was that $10 sub, the restaurant was getting 8. The food delivery service was getting a $2 spread from the $10. So they pay 8 for the $10 sub, and they're charging you $11.50. So the restaurant is making $8 on a $10 sub, and the food delivery service was making $4.50. And that's how it worked. And you as the restaurant owner now don't have my information, my phone number, my back end, my any of this. All I get as the restaurant is food delivery service order under a name of Jason. That's it. And it doesn't even say Jason. It's probably J4732. And that's all it is. So they know how to market me because I ordered a turkey sandwich. I like turkey. They have an exclusive with Boar's Head and Publix, let's say. Now all of a sudden they're pushing that ad on me.
Correct. All of that is marketing, and it has to be paid for because it's not done for free. So who pays for it? It comes out exactly. It comes out of the people that are putting their product up there for sale. Yeah. So you have to advertise. It's basically, whatever product your commodity is, you have to pay a marketing fee. And if you're going to use the food delivery services, you have to add that in as part of your marketing because it's a number that you're not accounting for. You're going to lose money.
But do you find that restaurants that do on these platforms, they also need to have their own marketing budget in addition? So you have your food delivery budget, right? And then you also need your put it in the flyer, put it on a commercial, put it on a bus.
Correct. I think it's all going to matter depending on what the concept is. Depending on what your concept is and who your demographics are, is going to relate to your marketing. That's why there's marketing and PR mavens out there that do specific and niche style work. And those are really important companies. And, even my old marketing company, a PR company that I used to use years ago, they have so much now where they have just a dedicated person to social media. So you're doing your Instagrams and your YouTube videos and your, all the other ones, TikToks and et cetera, right?
Yep.
So, and X and all that, but each one is a different type of algorithm. They're not all the same. So you have to have a specialist. You have to have somebody that's familiar with that. What is that, free? No, that costs. Time is money.
Yep. And the other thing that you need to think about is your demographics, right? If you have an old school steakhouse that's been around for 80 years or an old school stone crabs place in Miami, right? There's a couple of them. But if you have one of those, you're probably not going to try to get the teenagers that are on TikTok and Instagram and all of that. You're probably wanting the kids that are, let's say, at UM, the new professionals that are out there that could go for stone crabs and do all that kind of stuff. That's where you want. So where do you find those people? Maybe not on Facebook, right? You find them on Instagram, or maybe not on TikTok. You'll find them on LinkedIn. So you also need to know your target audience. So where do you see the restaurant industry, and we'll talk about South Florida because that's where you. What do you if you were to write it down on a piece of paper and put it in a time capsule? Where do you think the restaurant industry in the next, I don't know, 1 to 5 years is going in South Florida?
It's an interesting concept. I think, it's almost kind of like our economy. And again, I don't want to talk politics or anything, but, it's interesting. So I would say this, you have the lower income class, and you'll follow me for a minute, give me a little latitude. You have the lower income class, then you have the middle class, and then you have the wealthy class, right? And there's no denying one of those three classes is getting smaller and shrinking. We'll just say that, okay? One of those. The larger of the three in the middle is getting smaller. And with that said, I think that's a very big reflection of the restaurant industry or the food service industry. I think you have those well-to-do family, financially viable concepts and restaurants that are good. But I think QSRs, quick service restaurants, are going to really start coming out with better quality and better items, because if you look at the demo and the analytics in today's world, people are very specific. You got, Dave's Hot Chicken, right? You know what you're getting. And who's going there? The people that want a hot chicken, period, right? So Chick-fil-A, there's a demographic, right? So, this is very personalized, because now you took a menu that was trying to please everybody, and now you're shrinking it, which means I can keep my food cost in line. And now I know who I'm trying to hit demographically and analytically. I know what I can kind of pull off for numbers for doing X amount of covers a day or sandwiches or whatever it is. And I think that is probably where it's going. I don't think we're ever going to slow down with bringing in some of those high-end concepts from around the world. I'll use Zuma and Sexy Fish as examples for downtown Miami. Buchan from Palm Beach, who we all love, Clay Conley, he's coming down to Coral Gables, Florida.
But you're never going to see a Capitol Grill, close up shop, or you're never going to see
but because the demographics, you have to understand, it's very much like when you and I used to work together.
Yeah.
It was the philosophy of Milton's concept of how things transpire and evolve in life. And you have to understand something. Clientele. I have vivid memories of going to Capitol Grill or Houston's with X, Y, or Z. I remember going to Houston's with my grandfather. I remember going to Capitol Grill with my grandfather. And, I'm in my 50s, right? So my generation, I remember that. So from X to me, that demographic is still able to go there. Do I think they'll close? I don't know, but I think there will be a time where below the 30s and 20s might not be so much interested because they didn't get to enjoy it or be involved with it the way I was.
Correct. But I think, look, my kids have been to Capitol Grill. My kids have been to Morton's, because so now it's, hey, look, we just celebrated Mom's birthday, right? And we had Benihana because that was something that Mom likes. Right. We're going to celebrate my mom's birthday belated. And, we took her to Morton because that's what we remember. That's what my kids are going to remember. But back to that, I also think, and you touched on it, I'm watching. I don't go out to eat a lot, right? But when we do, I'm a creature of habit. I know, shocker. I like to get the same thing. And I'll go into a restaurant and I'll be like, hey, I haven't been here in 3 months. Where is so-and-so on the menu? And they're like, oh, we discontinued that. What do you mean you discontinued that? That's why I came to your restaurant. And then a lot of times the waiters or waitresses or servers or managers, they'll come over and they'll say, hey, I just want to let you know, the reason it was discontinued, not everybody was buying it. Four Rivers did that for a little while with turkey, actually. They took turkey off. And I pulled one of the managers aside and they said, why? Like, that's the only reason I was still able to eat here, because that's all my daughter would eat.
What did he say?
He said the cost of that turkey was almost, if not more expensive than the cost of the brisket, any other meat. So we would have to be charging the same for brisket and turkey. And once we did that on the menu, people are going to be like, what are you, crazy? I'm not spending that on turkey. Thankfully, and thank you, Four Rivers, you put turkey back on, so I'm allowed to continue to have that. It's something I will probably be picking up for dinner tomorrow night for bringing in for my family. But again, perception. You might say, I'll spend $17 for a pound of brisket, but I ain't spending $17 for a pound of turkey, and that's what the problem is.
It's funny because a lot of people, that's a very valid point. And just to say, I love Four Rivers. I'm a big fan as well. But I think something that's interesting is years ago when we started to do menu development, and it's more of a science today, again, with, I hate to beat a dead horse, but analytics and computer AI and everything has helped out so much. But when we always did a menu, we had, appetizers and entrees that help compensate for your food cost. So with the brisket being $28 a pound, when you buy it there, and then the turkey being only 17, okay, it costs me a little more to do the turkey and buy it, but I can still get away because I sell more brisket. So they offset, right? And I have a higher profit margin on the brisket. But those days are changed. Those days have changed, and it's not like that anymore. And because of that, that's why we're running into the issues like you were explaining. Mm-hmm. So I think what's taking into effect is that smaller menus, smaller ability to appeal to a wider variety. And that goes back to my example of Hot Dave's, Dave's Hot Chicken and all those, a lot of, they're not just kiosks, but like the quick service restaurants. I mean, look, Payway is a great concept, right? They took P.F. Chang's and they downsized it to a quick and easy, QSR. But one near me closed. Why? Because, they weren't doing the business they needed to do to sustain. Were they offering everything? Sure. Did they bring in specials? Yep. Did they lower prices? Yep. Did they offer deals? Yep. There's a lot of things, but you can't appeal to everybody.
You got to remember, I know the area where you live, and it is not going to do well there, right? If you want a fast but good one, you're looking at a Chipotle, you're looking at a Moe's, you're looking at, one of those. The Asian spin probably won't hit your community because that's just not what they eat. You get, you get like, the chickens, the rices, the not so spicy, the very flavorful. That's what they want. So maybe some sort of Dave's Hot Chicken, but you can throw a rice as a side. You might have a brand new concept there because so you gotta know your audience, and that's one of the things I talk about in my newest book, which you're quoted and you're in there and all that good stuff, and check it out on Amazon. Shit they never taught you in law school, and more shit they never taught you in law school. And this is Uncle Chef Michael who's in the book, because that's what my kids call him. But it's all about knowing your audience, knowing your people, knowing where to focus. So unfortunately, we only have about a minute and a half left. So look, if you're listening to this live or in person or whatever, reach out to Michael, MBJ, like Michael B. Jacobs, at chefmbj.com. He can help you design a restaurant, find a space, be more economical, find new vendors. This is the one-stop shop. He can even help you with the real estate, with the property. If one-stop shop, South Florida is his zone of comfort, but he can also work in other spaces because he, has partners all over the world. Great concepts, great foods, and concierge service like, you wouldn't imagine. You want to know the up-and-coming hottest place to go. When you're working with Michael, he will open up his Rolodex and make sure that you are successful and happy. So, Michael, I always end this with the hardest question of the show. So, here's the hardest question. The Bear. How close to reality is something like that show?
It's a great show, and I would tell you the following. Certain seasons, because they did variety of seasons, are more in tune with what the industry is like as opposed to other. But I will say this, they nailed the psychological aspects of the characters. Chefs, people in the food service industry, we're very, very emotional. We wear our emotions on our sleeve, and they nailed that aspect 100%.
And because of the culinary industry, the cigarette makers and tobacco industry will never go out of business, because not you, but a majority of your peers are all smokers. Have you seen Black Rabbit?
I'm watching it right now.
Okay, so the next time we come on the show, we're going to talk about Black Rabbit. Again, Michael Jacobs, for all your culinary needs, real estate needs. It can help you commercial space, homes, whatever it is, South Florida, all over the world. Let's throw his information up there one more time. It's mbj@chefmbj.com, and you could go ahead and reach him. Tell him you saw him on the show. He'll give you some extra love. Michael, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Appreciate you. Don't drop. Take care.
Thank you.